Hi, very good morning. I'm Dr. Janak Patel, MD, General Physician. All my video lectures are mainly for educative purpose. At present, we have started with a series of clinical examination of different systems. Now today we'll be dealing with respiratory system. Usually while examining the respiratory system, simultaneously we are also examining the part of cardiovascular system. We'll be discussing separately as well as some of the points will be together. This chapter will be very useful to fourth year student, third year student and even second year students. Most common cases which are being asked in your oral exams are abdominal examination and respiratory system and sometimes cardiovascular system. CNS are not very common, but these two systems are most common, alimentary and respiratory. And along with respiratory, they can ask you something on a cardiovascular system. In theory, there will be some of the points which may be asked in your theory as a short notes. So we'll be beginning with respiratory system examination. That is examination of chest, ideally. We know very well respiratory system will be consisting of a two portion we call upper respiratory tract, that is nasal cavity, nasopharynx and larynx. And lower respiratory tract will include below the larynx, trachea, bronchi, lung parenchyma and entire lung. Now first we should know the certain landmarks, and that will help you to divide different lobes. By and large, we use sternum as a main landmark, where this is a suprasternal notch, this is manubrium sterni, this is the body, and then you come across what we call as the xiphisternum. Then another landmark is clavicle, and from this sternoclavicular joint, now you can palpate ribs, that is first rib, below the first rib there will be first intercostal space, etc. down. Now manubrium sterni and the body will have a junction that we call as the Ludwig's angle. At that Ludwig's angle, the trachea will bifurcate into right and left bronchus. That will be the area where the arch of aorta will begin and end, or we call as ascending aorta will end and arch of aorta will begin. Arch of aorta will end and descending aorta will start. So there are good number of landmarks which are being there at the level of junction of manubrium sterni and body, or we call Ludwig's angle. And that is the site where you have got the second rib which will be uniting with sternum. So this will be the important landmarks. So if you look at this line, this is a midline in the center, we call mid-sternal line. Midpoint of the clavicle we call as a mid-clavicular line, and along the anterior axillary fold we call anterior axillary line. So this will divide into two portions, the medial and lateral. So these are the two main landmarks which we utilize. Now if you draw the line from here to anterior axillary line, that is from Ludwig's angle, this will be upper lobe, and if you draw the line, this will be the line, so that will divide middle lobe and lower lobe. While on the left side there will be only one line like this will divide into upper lobe and lower lobe. By and large, this particular are mainly for identifying which portion is being involved. Now, if we label according to this particular diagram, now I'll be taking this diagram. Any portion which is above the suprasternal notch, this is suprasternal notch, it is called suprasternal fossa, and above the clavicle we call supraclavicular fossa. This is supraclavicular fossa. This is the mid-sternal line, mid-sternal. This is border of the sternum, border of the sternum. You will have a right border, left border, and this will be mid-clavicular line. Now, if you consider this below the clavicle, we use the word infraclavicular fossa. And at the xiphisternum, the angle by the two costal border is called epigastric angle or costal angle, subcostal angle. So these are the few words which are being utilized as far as anterior landmarks. In axilla, along the anterior axillary fold, anterior axillary line, posterior axillary fold, posterior axillary line, and between the two, mid axillary line. So these are the three lines which are utilized laterally in a below the axilla. While posteriorly along the spine, this is posteriorly along the spine, this is called posterior midline, and at the inferior angle of scapula, this is called scapular line. Anything above the scapula is suprascapular. Between the two scapula, interscapular region, and below the scapula, infrascapular region. So these are the area which are being there and which we utilize for percussion, auscultation, palpation, as well as inspection. So inspection, palpation, percussion, we mentioned this area. Posteriorly, suprascapular, interscapular, infrascapular. So these are the words which are being utilized, or we call scapular region, that is over the scapula. So these are the region posteriorly, and in axilla between anterior and mid axillary line, and between the mid axillary line and posterior axillary line, and anteriorly usually we divide into parasternal region. This will be parasternal region parallel to the sternum, parasternal region. This will be lateral and this will be medial, medial to mid clavicular line. This is supraclavicular fossa, this is infraclavicular fossa. So depending upon that you put the different anatomical landmarks. Now roughly if we take that the portion, roughly if we take here the portion above what we call as roughly above the nipple, this will be the upper lobe. Below the nipple, this will be the lower lobe portion, and on the right side lower lobe will be divided into, we have shown you here, middle lobe and lower lobe, while on the left side the upper lobe is very big, that is it will be almost like upper and middle lobe combined together, and lower lobe will be laterally, lower lobe will be laterally. So examination of any system, whether it is alimentary, respiratory or cardiovascular, best way of learning is at the bedside only. Again, like examining any patient, always explain the person, introduce yourself, take the patient detail, explain the person, and try to take the written consent and then examine. Like alimentary system, always stand on the right side of the patient. Room should be well illuminated Environment should be a good temperature. We have already mentioned that explain who you are, what you want to do, and get the written consent. Ask the name, age, occupation, etc. And then you take a present complaint. Regarding a present complaint, origin, duration, progress, past medical history, past surgical history, any medications, any allergy to particular drugs, smoking, alcohol, family history, social history, occupational history, etc. And after asking all this, then we go for what we call as vital data examination, and we go to general examination related to present complaints, and in general right from head till toe. In a past medical history, usually we ask for diabetes, hypertension, tuberculosis, any repeated respiratory tract infection, particularly upper respiratory tract or lower respiratory tract infection, history of trauma, any surgical procedure done on a thorax, any chronic conditions, and in family history, tuberculosis, emphysema, lung cancer, allergy, asthma. This is asked in a family history. Among occupational history, good number of time to rule out those occupational hazards like asbestosis, silicosis, farmer's lung, berylliosis, etc. Then travel history is important to find out certain diseases which are very peculiar in certain areas, like brucellosis, coccidomycosis, those parasitic infections. Among drugs, certain drugs are notorious to produce interstitial lung disease like nitrofurantoin. So history of certain drugs also you should ask. Then history of smoking, tobacco, nasal drops, or some drugs which can produce damage to the lungs. We already mentioned regarding occupation, then smoking, etc. is very, very important, and also exposure to pollutants. Lung can be affected by many factors, and lung can affect brain, kidney, spleen, heart, liver, as well as skin. So always lung is an important organ. There are some common symptoms which tells you that the respiratory system is involved, like cough with or without expectoration, we call dry cough, or with expectoration, hemoptysis, chest pain, dyspnea, or now a word utilized is shortness of breath, wheeze. Wheeze means prolonged expiration with bronchi. Cyanosis may be one of the findings related to respiratory system, clubbing, snoring, stridor, etc. are some of the important things which can be correlated with respiratory system. But these are the common symptoms which are very peculiar of involvement of the lung. Fever, weight loss, edema, JVP elevated, pain in right hypochondrium, etc. are associated along with respiratory system in case of a cor pulmonale, malignancy, respiratory infections, etc. So while taking a history, site, quality, quantity, timing, setting, aggravating factor, relieving factor, associated symptoms, etc. are the common way of taking a history. We call Secret 7. You may follow whatever you like, but by and large, if you follow a particular pattern, you will have a less chance of missing something in a history. In general examination, we always say, always look for cyanosis, pallor, look at the JVP, look at accessory muscle of respiration, then clubbing, peripheral cyanosis, any staining we call as a smoker stains. Then look at the edema. Then you can look at hepatomegaly, splenomegaly, distension of abdomen, sacral edema, and then you examine chest inspection, palpation, percussion, and auscultation. So this will be complete full examination. But before we go for the systemic examination, you have to do what we call as a vital data. That is pulse, blood pressure, respiration, and temperature, including skin examination, pulse oximeter, input-output chart, etc. So all those should be examined. So when you go to a physical examination, after general examination, we go for systemic like respiratory system examination, inspection, palpation, percussion, and auscultation. So in general examination, always look for some of the findings. If person is carrying inhalers, nasal cannulas, if a person is having facial mask for oxygen, nebulizer, sputum pot, cigarettes, you can see here these are stainings because of cigarette smoking. So these are some of the things which will tell you that person is smoking. And if in a sputum pot you get sputum, you can look at the sputum part and good number of conditions you can identify. And if person is using nebulizer or is using inhaler or is having nasal cannula or is taking oxygen by facial mask, so these are signs of respiratory distress. Or person is hypoxic, person is breathless, and then you can look for respiratory distress like accessory muscle of respiration, respiratory rate, pursed lip, etc. And while person is breathless, person will have a difficulty in speech limitation because he will be so much breathless that he will not be able to speak properly. Or you can hear even an audible wheeze, you can get a coughing sounds, and you can look at cyanosis, clubbing, weight, cough, effort of ventilation, shape of the thorax, etc. These are part and partial included in general examination. But also we examine in a respiratory system inspection also some of these things. So symmetry, color of skin, temperature, moisture, any lesions, any marks, then spinal curvatures, movement and posture, position of breast, respiratory effort. These are all included in general examination as well as respiratory system inspection also. Someone can ask you as a part of general examination. In a skin you look for pallor, jaundice, any bruising, pigmentation, redness, any lesions, rash, edema, exudates from nipple, any depression or protrusion of the sternum. These are part of inspection part in a respiratory system. Pain, tenderness, lump, nodules, clubbing, retraction, barrel shaped chest, cyanosis, etc. Good number of times this is included. You can see here the person even in a standing posture he is sleeping. This is sleep apnea syndrome. So in general examination, look for pallor, icterus, cyanosis, clubbing, edema, lymphadenopathy. Look at the temperature, pulse, respiratory rate, blood pressure, and JVP. These are vital signs. These are included in vital signs, and these are part of general examination. Even if they are absent, mention no pallor, no icterus, no cyanosis, no clubbing, no edema, no lymphadenopathy. Or if it is present, what are the findings? And in temperature, mention temperature, pulse, respiratory rate, and blood pressure. This will be the findings in vital signs. Regarding pallor, pallor may be one of the findings because of in as far as respiratory system is concerned, because of chronic hemoptysis, or because of say malignancy, because of poor nutrition, etc. Cyanosis will be a very common finding in COPD, chronic bronchitis, status asthmaticus. In those particular conditions, you will get central cyanosis. Clubbing will be a very common feature as far as respiratory system is concerned in bronchogenic carcinoma, chronic suppurative lung disease like bronchiectasis, lung abscess, empyema. Occasionally in some occupational lung disease, even mesothelioma, you can have clubbing. You can grade them clubbing, particularly in a case of a bronchogenic carcinoma, you can have a grade 4 with hypertrophic osteodystrophy. And we have already mentioned that you can have a clubbing because of bronchogenic carcinoma, suppurative lung disease like bronchiectasis, lung abscess, empyema, quite common. You can have sometime in a cystic fibrosis. Interstitial lung disease occasionally can have clubbing. Long-standing pulmonary tuberculosis, chronic bronchitis, mesothelioma can also have clubbing. Rare findings like pulmonary AV malformation, sarcoidosis, they can be also associated with clubbing. This will be the question for oral and very frequently asked as a short note. Clubbing is asked as a short note. And we have already mentioned, along with clubbing, if you get the painful swelling at the wrist or elbow or knee or ankle because of subperiosteal new bone formation, we call that as hypertrophic osteodystrophy, which is a characteristic of bronchogenic carcinoma. And occasionally cystic fibrosis, AV malformations. Lymphadenopathy is very common. We have to look for two common conditions in India. One is tuberculosis and second is malignancy. So in malignancy, bronchogenic carcinoma can have a secondary metastasis, or you can have a lymphadenopathy secondary due to lymphoid tissue malignancy like lymphomas, Hodgkin's lymphomas. And you can have a lymphadenopathy in mediastinum. So always look for lymphadenopathy in cervical and axillary region. And also look for lymphadenopathy in inguinal regions. Because if you get in an inguinal region, axilla, cervical region, it is more in favor of lymphomas. If you get only in axilla, maybe tuberculosis or maybe bronchogenic carcinoma, more common. And in cervical region, either because of bronchogenic carcinoma or because of tuberculosis. So these two should be ruled out most common. By blood pressure examination, you can find out normotensive, hypotensive or hypertensive, and occasionally you can find out even a pulsus paradoxus. So when you take up blood pressure during deep inspiration, there will be usually fall of blood pressure by more than 10 millimeter of mercury. If there is a fall of blood pressure more than 20 millimeter of mercury, it is in favor of pulsus paradoxus. As far as respiratory system disease is concerned, severe acute asthma or status asthmaticus and acute exacerbation of chronic obstructive lung disease will produce occasionally pulsus paradoxus. But by and large, the pulsus paradoxus will be more common with cardiac tamponade, or we call pericardial tamponade, constrictive pericarditis, massive pericardial effusion. This will be more common as compared to respiratory disorders. But occasionally in respiratory disorders like status asthmaticus and acute exacerbation of COPD will be one condition where you can demonstrate sometime pulsus paradoxus. We have already mentioned in vital data in respiratory rate, tachypnea, bradypnea, hyperapnea, then different types of pattern, Kussmaul's breathing, hypoventilation, Cheyne-Stokes breathing, Byard's breathing, etc. we have mentioned there. You can sometimes even identify obstructive sleep apnea, that is hypopnea syndromes. where you can have apnea, hypopnea index. These are the different patterns which you can identify. Normal, where you will have a regular inspiration expiratory phase. In a bradypnea, the rate will be less than 12. In tachypnea, the rate will be more than 20. And in hyperapnea, rate as well as depth both will be increased. In case of Cheyne-Stokes breathing, there will be gradual increase in the rate and depth, followed by a pause we call as the apneic pause. In a Kussmaul's breathing, you will have a rapid, that is hyperapnea, tachypnea, and you will have a sweet odor that is very typical of diabetic ketoacidosis. In Bayer's breathing, you will have a irregular breathing pattern with irregular apneic phases. There is one more word. These are the two words which does not fit specifically in any specific condition. That is sighing breathing, which is frequently interspersed deeper breaths, and this is ataxic breathing, which is disorganized with irregular and varying depth of respirations. This slide I've already shown you in a respiration in vital data, that is eupnea, tachypnea, bradypnea, apnea, hyperapnea, Cheyne-Stokes breathing, Bayer's breathing, Kussmaul's breathing, and apneustic breathing. We have done this particular, so I'm going little faster. Then before we start doing inspection, palpation, percussion, always examine the upper respiratory passage, that is examination of nasal septum to rule out a deviated nasal septum. Look for the mucous membrane, oral mucosa, that is soft palate, palate. Look at tonsillar area. Is there any discharge? Is there any membrane, etc. So nasal cavity examinations, have a good torch light, and you can use nasal speculum also. In a nasal cavity, try to rule out polyp, foreign body, any growth, any discharge, maybe blood, maybe mucus, or maybe purulent discharge. Try to look for those. And when you examine the oral cavity, look for the post-nasal discharge or any discharge over the tonsillar area. So try to look for that. So oral cavity examination is very, very important while you are examining the respiratory system. So look at the oral cavity by throwing a good bright light. And if you have got facilities of direct laryngoscopy or indirect laryngoscopy, examine the larynx. Direct laryngoscope is the laryngoscope which you are utilizing while intubation, while indirect laryngoscope is a mirror through which you look at the larynx. And we have already mentioned that in a peripheral examination, look at the hands for pigmentation, clubbing, pallor, and then we have mentioned look at the eye for cyanosis, pallor, jaundice, etc. In upper limb, you can look for flex, which is one of the finding in carbon dioxide narcosis. Look at the mouth. Pursed lip is a finding of respiratory distress. JVP elevated suggests that there is an increased right side pressure, that is secondary due to cor pulmonale. Trachea position is usually on inspection, palpation we do. Looking at the lymph nodes, we have already mentioned before. So right from the head onwards, pallor, cyanosis, clubbing, jaundice, this is pursed lip. Neck examination for lymph nodes, JVP. In pulse, tachycardia, low volume pulse, pulsus paradoxus. This all we have discussed in detail in vital signs. This is flaps you will get in pre-classical condition. hepatic coma, uremia, and carbon dioxide narcosis. Do remember these three most common. Clubbing, cyanosis, wasting of muscle, etc. Look for those. Wasting of muscle will be very common in malignancy, and one of the malignancy is Pancoast tumor. This is cyanosis. You can see central cyanosis. Clubbing. This is staining, nicotine stain. This is wasting. Then you can look at the eye. Over the chest, you can look at the dilated veins. You can look for lymph nodes which are very characteristic of tuberculosis, malignancy, lymphoma, sarcoidosis, etc. This we have already discussed. So you can see a big lymph node, more likely to be malignancy. Again, you can see a big lymph nodes, multiple lymph nodes, more likely to be malignancy. You can see this is an external jugular vein, full. So chances of central venous pressure also being elevated will be more. You can see a big lymph node, big mass. So try to examine that. JVP will be discussing separately. So also part of general examination you should mention of JVP also. Then regarding skin, you can see here the dilated veins over the upper part of the chest. This is very common in superior vena cava obstruction. You can see these dilated veins. This is puffiness of face, and this is after treatment. So you should look for those dilated veins in a superior vena cava obstruction. You can see the lymph nodes. This is external jugular vein. You can see these dilated veins over the chest in a superior vena cava obstruction. This is a big tumor which is likely to be malignant tumor. Again, you can see this is a big mass, maybe a lymph node or secondary metastasis. So likely to be malignancy. You can see the external jugular vein markedly prominent, more in favor of increased central venous pressure. Bad oral hygiene may be responsible for lower respiratory tract infections. Skin lesions, look at the skin lesions. These are oral lesions which will be responsible for again lower respiratory tract infections. These are over the tongue. These are over the tongue. You can see that. This is puffiness of face. This is angioedema, which will have more likely to be laryngeal edema also simultaneously, and this is very common in anaphylactic shock. This will be very frequently puffiness of face in a congestive heart failure. Also you can see puffiness of face in a superior vena cava obstruction also. These are aphthous ulcer or ulcer on the lips. This is spitting edema. You have to look for all these findings, and as far as pupil is concerned, you can look for Horner syndrome, that is meiosis, ptosis, anhidrosis, and anophthalmos. This will be discussing when we are discussing what we call as CNS in detail. So I end my lecture here. This is in general what we call as, before starting with respiratory system inspection, palpation, percussion, and auscultation. That is general examination and vital data, importance of those related to respiratory system. Very frequently, good number of these things are asked in oral. Occasionally, clubbing is one of the, clubbing and cyanosis are the two small short notes which can be asked in your theory, and they are very frequently asked in your oral. I think that this lecture will be very helpful to you in your oral exam as well as sometime in your theory exam. If you feel this lecture is useful and you like this particular lecture, please press button like, subscribe, press bell icon, and you can share with your friends. At the end of this lecture, I thank you all for taking out time. I know that your time is valuable, and I appreciate you for spending some of the time with me. We'll see you in next lecture, that is will be on respiratory system inspection.